Brett Allen here. Thanks, everybody, for watching and listening. We have a very special guest today, Zainab. I'm so excited. I have been a fan for a long time, and this new special drops tomorrow on Prime Video. Thank you for your time, and let's talk about it. How exciting is it to have a special out?
Oh my God. It's so one, Brett, thank you so much for having me. And I'm so excited. Like you start stand up and you're like, paying to do it essentially, right? You're begging for stage time. And then eventually you get the courage to want to record something in long form. And then you're like, okay, but who wants to buy it? Who's going to help
Right.
me get this out to the world? And after you go through all of that and you tape it, and then it's time for the world to see it. This is the time. So I'm so excited. I'm nervous. I think I'm just like hopeful that people laugh, people enjoy it, people feel seen. I hope that I hope that the people who are fans of mine already leave feeling like, yeah, that's exactly like we just like that has only solidified my, fanship, my love for her, my enjoyment of her. And then the people who are newcomers are like, wow, like I'm so glad I didn't miss out on this.
Well, comedy has always been part of your background. I mean, all the television and film stuff is there and exists, which we can't talk about. I'm sorry, folks, but that's okay. We're talking about the special, which is, from what I've seen, I've just seen sizzle clips here and there, things that you've posted, and you really just go no holds barred, which I think for a comedian is what you do. And it's important. So the comedy has always been part of your blood. I do want to ask because I'm interested to know, like, what is your process for putting together an hour, 45 minutes? Do you do the clubs? Do you just write it and perform it? Like, how do you go about piecing something together like this and making it just look flawless, even though it's a really intricate art form and very difficult to do, as you mentioned at the beginning?
Yeah, so when I'm at home, I'm going up like locally, right? Like I'm doing the Comedy Store, the Laugh Factory, the
Okay.
Improv, and I'm and anywhere else, and I'm doing these like 10, anywhere from 10 to 20-minute spots and like
Okay.
working on individual bits. And then when it's like, okay, we have to put an hour together, I'm figuring out like what is it that I want to say in my hour and what do I want the takeaway to be,
Yeah.
right? And how can I do that in the most humorous way possible? So that was how I attacked it off stage. And then when I got on stage, I'm traveling. Now I'm going anywhere that will allow me to run an hour. I'm
Okay.
going to whatever state, whatever city, because some comedians are able to just work out, these 10-15 minute spots and then piece it together at the end. I needed to, in order for it to be like a full cohesive story, I needed to kind of run it over and over and over again and find this month. When I first started running it, it didn't start the way it starts now on the special. It didn't end the way it ends now on the special. And I just needed to really find that. And the only way that I can find those moments, and the flow of it is on stage.
I love that because you are storytelling essentially. I mean, there is some observational and point of view things that you talk about just from what I've seen in the clips, talking about family and relationships, all the things. I think that's interesting. I think maybe a handful of comedians that I've spoken with actually go it that way and run a full hour and then just adjust it. But I think your style is really fun to watch because you get to, it's like watching a kid be born basically and just take it from tip to tail and work it out. So when you
Mm-hmm.
go to the clubs and you run an hour, do
Mm-hmm.
you do crowd work or anything like that? Or are you mostly just kind of let's run it this way and work through it? Today, it seems like everybody wants to get in a TikTok or a YouTube clip somehow.
Yeah.
It's like become a thing now where they go see you, but then they're hoping to go viral on one of your clips that you release if you do it that way.
Yeah, yeah. There's definitely crowd work included in all of my sets, and it's only because I'm in the room, and I think I never get on stage like trying to do a crowd work bit. I go up there with material, But I like to be present in the room. You know how Brett, like you can like, I'm going to call my mom and I'm going to ask her about this recipe that she made when I was a child during Thanksgiving. But then your mom decides that she wants to talk about what happened at the post office.
Yes.
You don't tell your mom you're not trying to hear about the post office. You go on the journey of the post office with her. And then when she's done, you go right back to, oh, mom, I was actually calling to find a recipe for the Thanksgiving, you know what I'm saying, for your Thanksgiving mashed potatoes, you know? And so that's the way I look at stand up. Like I have this roadmap and I really want to get through this roadmap. And so when I'm running it, if there's a lot of interaction with the crowd, if there's moments that I have to take to be present in the room with them, that means that this show ran an hour and 22 minutes versus this show that ran 58 minutes, you know, that's just going to happen. But I'm not at all getting on stage just seeking crowd work. That's not my style. I get up on stage wanting to invite you into my world. But I know in order to get people to come into your world, sometimes they want you to go into their world, or they feel like your world is so succinct with their world that they're like, well, you know, I want to go down this journey. Like I want to go like come down my journey with me so you can see, Zainab, that we're so similar. You know what they want and I'm a conversational comedian. And so I can understand how it kind of seems like I am promoting an environment to be very interactive, which inspires crowd work, crowd participation, you know?
Yeah. Especially with some of the topics that you tackle in this special, you know, you cover a lot of things and you have a lot of things to say. Obviously, in the world of comedy in the last couple of years, cancel culture has been high, and comics almost, in some senses, go on stage in fear for either being physically attacked or maybe recording going out of a bit, you know, and then it gets out there and they don't get the full contextual idea of what you're doing or the story that you're telling. And all of a sudden now Zainab Johnson is talking about this or talking about that. It has nothing to do with that at all. So I would love to hear your thoughts on that. Just a couple more questions. I know you're very busy. The special does premiere tomorrow on Prime Video. Can you give us the title and just so people get it so they know?
Yes. Of course. The title of my special is Hijabs Off.
Hijabs Off,
which in and of itself could be a controversial title.
Right, but it's probably a very small part of an entire wonderful act.
Yeah. And like you said, it's available only on Prime. So, you know, it's not something that you have to pay for. As long as you have Prime, you can get it. In most countries that Prime is offered in. And yeah, I think that it's a fun watch, but I do, in terms of like the cancel culture, in comedy, I do recognize that that a comedian can feel a bit of pressure getting on stage and wanting to really find the funny in something, you know, and looking for the space to do that. But there's certain words or topics that are triggering or taboo at a certain time, you know. I think that most times, if your intentions are pure, meaning your intentions are to bring levity to this thing that is pretty difficult to talk about, versus being provocative, versus being a shock comic, versus being offensive. I think that if your intentions are pure, then most audiences will allow you to find your way through that joke, you know? That's the type of comedian I am. I think that I've said things that are difficult for people to hear, whether they're observational and perspective driven or parts of my own very personal life. That's like, oh, wow, to share that personal, that vulnerable of a story, you know, is not something we see comedians doing, you know? But I think that, you know, if it's handled with the intentions, with positive intentions, and I think most times you're giving grace. That's what I should say, grace.
Yeah, I think so. Like comedians are meant to talk about topics and make people, it's almost like an unspoken rule. It's kind of fun to feel uncomfortable a little bit and go, should I laugh at that? You know, not, and there's like a very fine line, I think, that comedians draw, and it's a tightrope, but it's executed so well, especially with your comedy and other comics. Well, I do want to ask, you know, you've been doing this for a very long time. First time going up, do you have fond memories of that? Were you nerve-wracked? Did you feel like you crushed and then you bombed? I just love to hear, like your first experience in getting bit by the comedy bug.
Yeah, I definitely remember my first day of comedy like it was yesterday. I was definitely nerve-wracked, but I did very well, and that's not my perception. I was quite surprised actually. Like
Yeah,
that's how I've always been that way, like very present in the room, like what's happening is happening. Right.
right.
Like, because if I'm not, if I check in with the audience, and I remember doing that in my very first open mic, like they're laughing kind of hard. These people were outside in the back smoking hookah, and they stopped smoking hookah to come inside to see what's happening. So I'm like, wait a second, you guys are laughing. You guys are liking this? And they're like, yeah, keep going. And I'm
Love
like,
it.
oh no. Let me stop while I'm ahead. I'm thinking about it like poker, like this must be luck, you know? And then the story starts, but
I love it.
I definitely remember that. It feels much longer than it was. Like the spot was 5 minutes and I was probably up there for 3.5, maybe 4. But when I think about it, it feels like I'm doing a 20-minute set, like it just feels so much longer than it was.
Yeah, that's the interesting thing about comedy or an interview like this, we've been going for 6 or 7 minutes. I feel like I've been talking to you for 20 or 30. If you watch
Yeah.
any kind of late night set, it's always 5 minutes. Couch interview is 7 to 8. But if you do it the right way and you're prepared either way, it seems like a lifetime. Well, congratulations on
Thank
everything that
you.
you've done. I've been a fan. I was so excited when we got the opportunity to talk to you. Shout out to your team. Congratulations on the special tomorrow. It drops on Prime Video. Zainab
Yes.
Johnson, you're the best. Thank you for your
Thank you
time.
so much. Thank you so much, Brad. You have a wonderful, wonderful day.
You too.